I'm Mike, and today I want to talk a little bit about what kept me eating animal products for longer than I would have liked to, and that was my belief that we required animal protein to survive or be healthy or get buff or something. So we're going to take a journey through cultural beliefs, deep-seated nutritional feelings, and of course the studies on vegan protein levels and what non-vegan experts have to say about the question, do we require animal protein? Lately I have realized that the vast majority of people are in the frame of mind that we do require it. In fact, it appears to be the main mental nutritional barrier preventing people who want to go vegan from actually doing it. I have even had people say directly to my face, after not eating animal protein for a decade or so, your skin would shrivel up, become leathery, and you would experience advanced aging. And I will address that toward the end, but I do want to say to some of my more regular viewers who might view this as more of a basic video, stay tuned because there will be some stuff in here that I have not covered yet. All right. Let's rewind to about 7 years ago when I was trying to stop eating animal products, but I still had some deep compulsion to eat animal protein, probably because all of my life I was told that we required it, but I never really looked at the science behind it or the scientific consensus, so I decided that every few weeks I'd have to eat some fish or something, otherwise who knows what would happen. I was like, I'm gonna die if I don't get those proteins. But then I did the research, some of which we'll get into, some of which we'll get into that I didn't have access to back then. And the good news is, I'm not dead, so let's take a look at why. I want to start by looking directly at the literal protein aspect because that is what most people are concerned about when talking about animal protein. Proteins are made up of amino acids, some of which are essential and can only be gotten in the diet. And all of these essential amino acids can be gotten in necessary amounts very easily from plant foods. We'll go into the numbers in a bit, but don't take my word for it. Let's look to the non-vegan experts. All too often, I mention in passing the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics position on vegetarian diets. This is the largest organization of nutritional professionals in the world, and they state that an appropriately planned vegan diet is nutritionally adequate. But to be more specific this time, here is their statement on protein, quote, vegetarian, including vegan diets, typically meet or exceed recommended protein intakes when caloric intakes are adequate. All right, that's pretty much all you need to know. What more is there to say? Well, there's a lot more to say because most people still believe that plant proteins are still somehow inferior or incomplete and won't meet your basic dietary needs. So back to these nutrition professionals with, quote, the terms complete and incomplete are misleading in relation to plant protein. Protein from a variety of plant foods eaten during the course of a day supplies enough of all the essential amino acids when caloric requirements are met. So by now we know that we can get enough plant protein, but the question is how much is that? From the Institute of Medicine, they say that we need about 0.4 grams per pound of body weight or 0.8 grams per kilogram. The American Institute of Cancer Research simplifies that with a flat recommendation of 46 grams per day per woman and 56 grams a day per man. But what about all those specific essential amino acids? Well, combining some nuts, seeds, and veggies throughout the day does it easily, but beans and legumes blast that right out of the water. Let's look to Chronometer. This is just one serving of black beans, this is just one serving of lentils, and here is one serving of soybeans. So you can see how it's really easy to just blast right by your RDI for protein by eating 3 meals a day. So unless you are starving yourself or eating an oddly restricted diet, protein is not a concern on a vegan diet, and restriction and starvation are quite common on omnivorous diets, so don't conflate that with veganism as many have done in the past. Next point, just to be clear, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics specifies that a vegan diet is nutritionally adequate for all stages of life, including pregnancy, and also for athletes. Speaking of which, when I was doing my research and realized I was no longer going to die, my concern sort of morphed into, will I be able to gain muscle on a vegan diet? Which is understandable because virtually all men in modern society have a sort of pressure to maintain a Hulk-like physique. But when I went vegan, I gained 10 pounds, and that's anecdotal, I know, but let's keep looking. If you watch my channel by now, you know that a lot of vegans have shown massive gains on a vegan diet, and in the case of Brian Turner, gaining muscle at the same rate on a vegan diet as he was on an omnivorous diet. And we have vegans like Patrick Baboumian setting world strength records, and Kendrick Ferris setting that US Olympic weightlifting record in the last Olympics. But most impressively, there is Jehina Malik, who is a professional bodybuilder who is vegan since birth. So those guns are not made with animal protein. And I think the most ironic part here is that omnivorous bodybuilders are like, yeah, bro, you know you can't get enough protein on a vegan diet. Come on, bro. Yeah, 1 scoop of whey protein. There's just plants don't give you enough. 2 scoops of whey. Can you just pass me the whole jar of whey protein, man? And the final kicker to all of this study found that vegans have higher blood levels of protein than omnivores. But it gets more interesting. This all has to do with inflammation, because inflammation lowers the liver's protein production, and many animal products induce inflammation. There are many pathways that this can happen, but one that is worth covering is endotoxins, which are toxins left over from bacteria from meat and dairy and other animal products that are not removed during cooking. This study, for example, showed a spike in endotoxin levels after eating cream and a spike in inflammatory markers as well. So how does this inflammation lower protein levels? Well, our blood protein is measured as albumin, which is considered a negative acute phase protein, which simply means that as inflammation goes up, it goes down. This is because when inflammation occurs, the liver, which produces albumin, must shift from that albumin production to the production of proteins that fight inflammation. The protein factory can only produce so much protein.
Hey boys, we're at max capacity here, alright? Okay, oh no, we just ate some meat! Lower albumin production and set the inflammation clock back to 0 again. Ah, there goes my perfect record.
But what are those inflammation response proteins that are hogging up all of the capacity of your liver? They are C reactive proteins, which are positive acute phase proteins, meaning they increase when inflammation increases. And to tie it all together, as this study found, not only did vegans just observationally have lower C-reactive protein risks, but when they took people and put them on a vegan diet, their C-reactive protein levels lowered by 1/3. To sum all of that up, vegans have higher levels of blood protein, possibly because animal products can increase inflammation, which makes it so your liver has to shift from general protein production to inflammation-specific proteins. Now, there is a lot of other baggage that comes with animal protein, and I cover a lot of those topics in my videos, but one that really is specific to animal protein that is worth mentioning is how animal protein boosts IGF-1. As this study shows, an elevated IGF-1 is not good for cancer because it fuels every stage of cancer growth. Plant protein, on the other hand, in general, does not raise IGF-1 unless you are pounding down several servings of soy protein isolate. And yes, vegans had lower levels of IGF-1 in this study as well. And moving on, it seems that a large portion of our cultural idea that we require animal protein has to do with our belief that protein is a significant source of energy. My energy is so low, I need some protein to power myself through the day. This just isn't correct in practical terms. Your body only relies on energy from protein when it is starving of carbs and fat. This book summed up what you'll find in a lot of sources, and that is, quote, under ordinary circumstances, protein meets only 5% of the body's energy needs. So it seems that when a lot of people are talking about protein, they are actually sort of using it as an ethereal term for calories in general, mainly from fat in animal products. And the idea of giving up a large amount of calories is worrisome for any animal. I mean, imagine if you take the 500 to 1200 calories a day that you might be eating from animal products and not replace it with plant calories. You do that for a few days, you're starving yourself, and you go to eat an 800 calorie burger and feel energized. That's not magical energy from animal protein specifically, that's breaking a fast. Now back to the point I mentioned at the beginning, does not eating animal products make you leathery and shriveled and have advanced aging? From an anecdotal perspective, there are many a vegan celebrity that are well preserved, and there's also just like comparing Annette Larkins, who is a 70-year-old vegan, to her husband.
Or they'll say, you got your granddaughter with you.
And then, from a non-anecdotal perspective, as this study showed, the Adventist vegans had 15% less mortality than omnivores, so you know people aren't just shriveling up and dying. Finally, some of you might be thinking, but what about all the non-protein things that are in animal products? Don't we need those? I do cover those in a lot of my other videos, so I'm going to link my B12 video and my vegan nutrients video at the end here in a second. So in conclusion, it is very ironic that people are worried about vegans getting enough protein when they're actually the ones with higher levels of blood protein, which, as I mentioned, is linked to inflammation. So on a vegan diet, you can easily get all of the amino acids that you need. You can get all of the protein you need from plant sources without having to try too hard, as long as you just don't hyper restrict, make sure to still eat your beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds, and you'll be good. Finally, if you are still concerned about being buff on a vegan diet, I will link some of the many vegan YouTube bodybuilding channels in the description below. I would love to be able to send this video to myself in the past, but feel free to share it with people that think the way that I thought back then. And that's it for today. Feel free to like and subscribe, and thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.